name is Mike Panessa. Thank you. Sorry, I always forget that. This meeting will be recorded, as they always are. My name is Mike Panessa. I am the chair of the Administrative Appeals Board. And so I'm calling the regular meeting for July 27th, 2022 to order. City Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Board Member Basili.
Here.
Board Member Moses.
Here.
Board Member Sinclair. He's muted, but I see him here.
Yeah, I'm back. I was turning on the lights because it would get dark.
Vice Chair King.
Present.
Chair Panessa. All members are present.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. Could we have a motion and second to accept?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. City Clerk, can you take the vote?
Board Member Moses.
Aye.
Board Member Basili.
Aye.
Board Member Sinclair.
Aye.
Vice Chair King.
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye, sorry.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a time set aside for public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the Administrative Appeals Board on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board. Although the board values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it is we can generally not take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Testimony for hearings will be taken at the time of those hearings that are not part of the public comment. City Clerk, is there anyone that is requesting to speak on public comment?
I have no registered speakers. I did see someone from VRON here. Do you have public comment?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, then nope, you may proceed.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna head into our first case. It is the appeal of the administrative decision that Amir Soheil, I apologize if I'm not gonna say your name right, is permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs, and the administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 1351 East Gem Circle in Palm Springs. At this time, I'd like the city to present their report.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, city staff, residents in the city of Palm Springs. My name is Patrick Clifford with the City of Palm Springs Special Program Compliance. We oversee the vacation rental program for the city of Palm Springs. Before you this evening is a staff report for the property located at 1351 East Gem Circle here in Palm Springs. Staff has determined that the owner has, without a registration certificate, advertised and operated the property located at 1351 East Gem Circle as a vacation rental from the items listed in your staff report. Additionally, there's some background in your staff report that describes that our department, the Department of Special Program Compliance, did receive an application for this property to become a vacation rental or registered vacation rental, and that was on March 7th, 2022. At the time of violation, that registration certificate had not been issued by our department and was not approved to become an operational vacation rental. Additionally, the code officer that investigated the property is on the call. Code Officer Williams, I would like to invite you to give more detail in your investigation. Thank you.
David, we cannot hear you. Now you're muted.
David, you are unmuted, but your sound does not appear to be working. Maybe try unplugging your headset.
about now.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Williams, Code Compliance Officer for the Department of Special Program Compliance. On March 7th, 2022, an application for a vacation rental certificate was brought into the Department of Special Programs by Mr. Sedegatti, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. The application was received and Mr. Sedegatti was advised that the approximate time for the permit to be issued was 90 days. And that we would reach out to him to schedule the safety inspection for the property. The safety inspection for the property was then scheduled for March 28th. The safety inspection was completed on March 28th at 8:15, and the property passed the inspection. A passing inspection report was submitted to the Department of Special Program Compliance and to Mr. Sedegatti. On the inspection report under inspector's notes, the following statement appears. Important message for new applicants. Do not advertise or rent your property short-term until you have received written authorization from the Department of Special Program Compliance. It should also be noted that at the end of the inspection, I went over the next steps with Mr. Sedegatti and explained that his permit would be issued on or about June 7th, 2022, and that he cannot advertise or rent short-term until he receives authorization from the Department of Special Programs. And that would come in the form of an email from my coworker, John Stambeck, and at that time, he would provide a 4-digit city ID number, and that 4-digit city ID number must be shown in all forms of advertisement. On April 15th at 8:10 a.m., a complaint came through the vacation rental hotline. The caller was reporting that someone was at the property at 1351 East Gem Circle, and he believed they were renting and that the property did not hold a vacation rental license. That is item 3-22 in your packet. On Saturday, April 16th at 3:48 p.m., a second complaint came in through the vacation rental hotline. That reported that the occupants of the property were trespassing, doing a photo shoot on the driveway, the front porch, and all through the garden. That's item 3-23 in your packet. On Sunday, April 17th, a third call came into the vacation rental hotline, and the caller reported that they had called regarding the same property the day before, and that the renters were trespassing on their property to take pictures. And he was watching it all through his security camera from an offsite location. That's item 3-24 on your packet. On April 17th, a link to an Airbnb advertisement for the property located at 1351 East Gem Circle was submitted to Code Compliance Officer Christy Smith, which she forwarded to me on April 18th for further investigation. That's item 3-26 in your packet. On April 18th, I reviewed the advertisement on Airbnb. It was advertisement 597-363-445-271, which was for the property of 1351 East Gem Circle. That is item 3-28 in your packet. The advertisement was missing the required 4-digit city ID, as one had not been issued for the property. The property was listed as a 3-bedroom house with no minimum stay requirement, and that it would accommodate 6 guests, and you would check yourself in through the keypad. The rental was for the entire property and hosted by Alex. The property had 1 review from Marvin, who stayed there at the property in April of 2022. That's item 3-32 in your packet. On April 18th, 2022 at 7:40 a.m., I sent a booking inquiry to the host, and that's item 3-40 in your packet. That inquiry reads, "Good morning. I wanted to see if your home is available May 19th to May 29th. My husband and I will be heading to Palm Springs with my parents. Please let me know and I'll book it. Thank you, Dave." At 9:31 that same day, I received a message from the host, Alex, that said, "Good morning, Dave. Yes, the house is available for the dates you've chosen. You can go ahead and book your reservation." At that time, an automated booking invitation was sent to me. At 4:32 p.m. that same day, I responded, "Perfect. I will book it as soon as I get home from work at 7 p.m. Is there any additional charge like pool heat? At 5:56 p.m., the host responded, yes, there is. It's mentioned in the description and other rules. Heated pool requires additional fee seasonally, generally includes December through March. If heat is not required, pool heating fees will not be charged or will be refunded. And those fees are $50 per day, $300 per 7-day stay, or $1,100 per 24 to 30 days. There is also a pet fee if you are traveling with your pet, which is $50 per trip, and that is also on the listing. At that time, I issued administrative citation AB 0379 for operating a vacation rental without a vacation rental registration certificate. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions the board may have.
Anything more from the city?
I have nothing further. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up to board members to ask questions of the city. Why don't we start with Mr. Basili?
No questions.
Mr. Moses?
No questions.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Kane?
Patrick, is this like a normal time frame? I mean, does it take, you gave us this like, how many were in the queue and how many days it's taking? Are you like backed up or?
Yeah, right now we are at a 90-day processing for new applications. I wanted to give the numbers of where we're at that time, just to kind of give some context. But we are processing at a 90-day. I do know currently we probably have well over 100 new applications pending to be processed today. So we are running with an index of properties waiting to be processed.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Sinclair?
Again, to Patrick, or today, was the permit ever issued for this property?
The permit was never issued. Once we noticed that code compliance issued the citation, processing was paused.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, I know you mentioned this. Can you reiterate on the letter or email that comes with the inspection? Does that make it clear that passing the inspection is not the equivalent to having a permit?
That's very clear. That is explained at the counter when the application is dropped off. And like I read to you, it's in the inspection report. The only thing that's been approved is the inspection. That's all they've passed at that point. That's when the office actually starts working on the application, when they know that the house is ready to be rented.
All right, thank you. Anything more from the city?
Nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we'll open up the appeal hearing. The appellant will have 10 minutes to present any information they would like to present. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak about this, this particular case, they will have 2 minutes. And if any member of the public speaks, the appellant will get an opportunity to respond to those. And so at this point, I would like to invite the appellant to present their case.
Okay. Hello, my name is
Sorry,
Mehdi
one
Siddiqui.
moment.
Oh,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to remind everyone that if you choose to testify under this appeal hearing, you are under the laws of perjury. In speaking, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mehdi Siddiqui. I am Alex's father, and I have a PhD degree in physics from Harvard University. And we moved to West Coast from East Coast 2 years ago. And my son loved Palm Springs, and he wanted to live there with his boyfriend, which he thought it's a better environment than East Coast for his lifestyle. So I bought a second house in Palm Spring on Chuperosa Road, which is a next agenda coming up. Maybe we can mix the two agendas and talk about both of them myself.
If you don't mind, let's keep them separate, just so that the
Okay.
record is very clear, please.
Okay, let's talk about the East Gem Circle now.
Thank you.
I co-signed for Alex, which was his first ever job and first ever house to live in. He's only 23 years old. My son, he just got out of UCLA in construction, and I bought this house for him to fix it up, and he wanted to live there with his boyfriend, as I said, and he did. And he fixed it up. The first day after the deed was turned into his name, he applied for vacation rental because he wanted to live there and on weekends or some holidays to rent it out, especially during the Coachella season, to make a living for himself. He didn't have a job. His tax return is attached to the email that I have sent you. And he has made only $14,000 last year and $17,000 the year before. So this was great for him to live on his own and rent it out and make some living. He came to the city and applied, paid the fees, and he never received a letter from the inspection stating that passing the inspection, you have to wait for whatever the honorable code officer mentioned. He never received such a letter, maybe because he was not in the premises and his mailing address was different. So assuming that the inspection has passed, and assuming that on the application, it clearly said it takes 45 days, not 90 days, he thought he was okay to start. Even then, he was cautious and he started advertising on Airbnb, not violating the code 525 because he mentioned minimum 28 days. I have attached to the email I have sent you a snapshot, a screenshot of his advertisement, which clearly states 28 days or 29 days minimum. The appendices that were attached to the case were 3 complaints on 3 consecutive days in April from a neighbor. She is a 75 years old lady, which probably doesn't like the newcomers. She has a security camera and she lives in New York and visits Palm Springs. How does she know where these people that she claims were trespassing or shooting pictures came from my son's property? The security camera is on her driveway. And in that cul-de-sac circle, East Gem Circle, there are 3 other houses which are Airbnb with license, of course, I assume. So there are a lot of people coming and going. Even if we take it that there were people trespassing her property, we don't know where these people came from because Alex's property was not rented at those dates. And the code officer, when he presented himself as a guest and tried to book the property for late in May and received a yes answer, the reason for that yes answer was that Alex thought by then the 45 days, even the 90 days will be over from the application date and he'll be okay. If he did not receive that that license, then he would have canceled it. So that is not a reason for him to be counted as violating 525 Code of Ordinance. And at the end, I want to let you know that this is his only income. This is his only house. He is a 23 years old kid with a lot of hope that has come to Palm Springs, and finding him and citing him and penalizing him, paying $5,000 when his balance in his bank account is only $500, and not letting him permanently to operate any operation. He has already listed his house for sale. He is so devastated financially and also emotionally that he would leave. If that is what the board people want, if that's how the city is reflected for the people who are newcomers, they are not quite familiar, because we see a lot of Airbnb advertisements in Orange County, in Dana Point, in Laguna Niguel, where there are no city permits allowed or issued for short-term rentals, but people are doing that. But Alex went through all legal steps. He made the application, he had the inspection, safety inspection passed. He did wait until 45 days was over. Even then he was cautious. And as a father, I am asking you to overturn this case and let him continue with his life and cancel the penalty if possible, and let him be issued a rental license. I have also sent you attachment to my email that is a proof that he was renting for 28 days minimum, because he signed a contract with Rima's Realty Group and listed it in MLS for monthly rental as soon as he bought the house. That is not advertising for short term, that is advertising for monthly rental with a real estate, realtor. Raquel Vivas was her name. I have attached that to my email. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. City Clerk, is there anyone else that is requesting to speak on this case? Monique, we cannot hear you. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Monique.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
We have no registered speakers and I see no hands.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we will open it up to the board to ask questions of the appellant. Actually, if the board doesn't mind, I would like to go first. Mr. Sadie, apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly. You had said that he never received the email or letter that he had passed the safety inspection. So my question would be, if he didn't receive that, how did he know he passed it?
He was verbally told by the inspector, and I was there myself. It was 8 in the morning that the inspector came for the both houses, and he told us verbally, and Mr. Gary Richardson, who was helping us to provide inspection and safety criteria for the house, he was there too. So we were told verbally that he passed. He never not only received that letter stating that you should not rent until you receive the 4-digit license. He never received any citation in the mail, nothing, because I think they were mailed to the wrong address. So when they were mailed to my primary house in Laguna Niguel, 8 Tattersall, that was the only time we learned about the citation. And we never learned about anything else. That's when we made the appeal. Even that letter was wrong. It said $500 is your fee. Then 2 weeks later came another letter stating that you have $5,000. One point I want to add is if the city is backed up and backlogged because of COVID or short of staff, and it takes a lot longer than 45 days, which is described in the ordinance, that should not reflect as a penalty on the applicants, on the people who want to make a living there. You see, in Palm Springs, prices of the houses are higher than other cities because of the potential short-term rental. Even the houses in the 55 plus communities are not as high because people cannot short-term rent, vacation rentals there.
Thank you.
Why not? I'm sorry, yes.
So who filled out the application paperwork? Was it you or your son?
My son.
Okay, and then who turned it in that would have been told by the compliance department?
He
about-
turned it in.
So he was told
He
when
was
he
not
turned it
told.
in.
No, that's what I'm saying. He was not told. He said on the application, it said 45 days. And that's what I read the application. I told him we should wait 45 days, which we did.
Okay, so the city's testimony was that at the time of application, he was told not to advertise till he received the permit. You're saying that's not correct?
That's not correct because as the city code officer mentioned, there are 100 new applicants. Does he really remember every one of them that he has mentioned? Maybe he forgot to mention that to this applicant. That's what I'm saying. Or maybe his English being his second language, not being able to understand it. In any case, he was not aware. I am not disputing that the city officer may or may not have mentioned that, but he was never aware of that.
All right,
Was he
thank you.
aware of that? Was there a pre-citation or courtesy call or letter issued? It would have been a different world.
All right, thank you. We'll open it up to other board members for questions. Let's start with Mr. Hedrick.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Basili,
No questions.
Mr. Moses.
Yeah, I have two questions. Is this administrative decision against your son or you?
It is against my son on his property.
Okay. Secondly, is in your testimony, you at one point said you had no intention of doing short-term and only doing long-term, or only a month or more. And then at a different time, you said he was going to try to make money by being able to rent out on weekends. There's an inconsistency there that
Yes, there is. He was trying to do it on the weekends after the license was issued. But before the license, he started off with the monthly rental, which is, I have attached the contract from Rima's Realty Group. He was allowed for monthly rental before the license, and he did so.
Anything else, Mr. Moses?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kane?
Well, I would love if you were my father.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait and see what the rest of the board has to say. This is,
All right, thank you. Mr. Sinclair?
Were there monthly rentals that was the place rented on a monthly basis to anyone?
Now, for 2 months, it was empty. Nobody rented for months.
So were you
Nobody.
trying to rent it for months?
It was empty, not rented, and for 2 months. And
Listen to
he
my
and
question.
his,
Was he trying to rent it
I'm
for
sorry.
everybody for 30 days? Listen to my question. Was he
Sure.
trying to rent it for 30 days
Yes,
and he had nobody take him up on it?
exactly.
Is there any reason he can't speak for himself in this hearing?
No, there is not. He's online. He can talk.
I can speak, sir.
English. Yes. This is him.
Yes, hello.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else from any board members? All right, I'm not seeing any hands. Does the city have any rebuttal?
Yes, Chair, I could just give some clarification from what I've heard. One, I do want to go into why we may have issued a citation during the process, simply for maybe advertising or looking to advertise in the future. Our administrative regulation that was dated September of 2017 does define advertisement of the property, which does also include promoting interest in, testing the market for, or soliciting the occupancy of a property for a period of 28 consecutive days or less. So there's reason why our code officers do investigate simply just from an advertisement standpoint. And then two, I did want to clarify maybe why the safety inspection wasn't communicated correctly. I pulled up the safety inspection form. It was emailed to an email address that's amirseta1717@gmail.com. And then third, I did want to just clarify in our ordinance regarding the findings of our vacation rental ordinance that states that this chapter preserves the character of the neighborhoods in which the vacation rental should be used for like an ancillary or secondary use of one's property. So I just wanted to add that point in as well as far as our overall program.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we're going to close the open part of the hearing. This will now be the time for the board to discuss what has been presented both by the appellant and the city. Why don't I go in reverse order? Mr. Sinclair, why don't we start with you?
Well, I agree with Mr. Moses' comment earlier. I think we have some inconsistencies here, and I think that assuming that you can rent when you haven't received the permit is just, it's not right. So that's my feeling on the matter.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kane? Any comments for discussion?
Oh, I guess I have a question that occurs to me. Where does it say the 45 days that he kept referring to? Where does it say?
It's on the application.
Mr. Clifford, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, I believe if I recall looking at the application, the one that the appellant did receive, there was a part on the application that said is approximately 45 days. Additionally, on the applications itself, when one would sign the application, they do sign stating that section C of the application does note that one, they will be contacted by the office to conduct a safety inspection. And also the second bullet in section C says you are not authorized to advertise or otherwise operate the vacation rental until you receive specific written authorizations from the department. Administrative fines and penalties will apply.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm deferring.
All right. Mr. Moses, any discussion?
Yeah, I think it's important for all of us to remember that when this legislation was created, there was well, first of all, short-term rentals are very controversial anyway. But when this was a compromise and a very strict regulation that would permit short-term rentals, but only under certain strict rules, and those rules have been violated. The one place for this leniency, the city will negotiate with your son, with Mr. Amir, for leniency and how you make the $5,000 payment.
Mr. Vasili, any discussion?
He's muted.
Sorry, no discussion.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hedrick?
No comment. Thank you.
So I guess from my perspective, I've seen the paperwork, that the application paperwork, and I know that it does say approximately 45 days, to just count 45 days and then assume everything's done is probably a dangerous path to go down. So from my perspective, it seems like they started the process and then didn't allow it to play out. We have no idea, because they didn't allow the city to go through the process. It is not clear necessarily whether or not a permit would have been issued. And as they're saying, they intended to rent long-term, there was an acceptance of a request to rent short-term. And to me, I've dealt with the city. I know they are pretty clear in that office as to what the requirements are. And I believe that if they told the applicant that do not advertise it until you have that 4-digit ID number, unfortunately, they decided to go ahead and do that. So as Mr. Moses said, I think we had a pretty clear violation of the rules. It also said that the property was now for sale. So it seems like he's already made his decision to vacate whether the property or Palm Springs, which is unfortunate, but that's not in our control. The other thing that's not in our control is if a neighbor is complaining that there's people on her property, that doesn't constitute a citation. And so whether she was right or wrong, that has no citation that affects this property. What it did, though, was alert to the city to see if there was an advertisement. In fact, they found one before there should have been one. And that's kind of all I have to say on this. Do we have a motion from the board on this case? And a second.
Can I make a motion?
No, sorry, that is reserved for the board.
Can I say just one word? If you
very, very briefly, please.
He advertised for minimum 28 days for the first 2 months. And as you said, not doing the law to the word is because he didn't know law to the word. His intentions were not to violate the code.
All right, thank you. So I understand that, but I guess my point is that for the city to do a request, it would have had to have been set up for short term. When the city does the request for a short term and then it gets accepted by the property owner, that in the city's perspective, pursuant to the ordinance, means it is the same as operating. So at this point, when is somebody on the board want to make a motion and a second, please?
I move we uphold the fine and the suspension.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. City Clerk, can you call the vote, please?
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Board Member Basili,
Aye.
Vice Chair King,
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to uphold.
All right, thank you everyone for your time and effort on this case. The appellant will receive an official notification from the city that about the fine and the permanent ban on a short-term permit. That does not preclude you from renting on a long-term basis, which for the city's definition is greater than 28 nights. At this point, then we'll move on to the next case, which is the appeal of the administrative decision that Mehdi, and I apologize, I don't want to slaughter your name here, is permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs, and the administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 2750 North Chuparosa Road in Palm Springs, California. At this point, I would like to invite the city to present their report.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, city staff, residents, the public on the call this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance. We oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. And before you this evening is a staff report for the property located at 2750 North Chuparosa Road in Palm Springs. Staff has determined that the property was advertised and operated as a short-term rental without a vacation rental registration certificate from the findings that are listed in the staff reports. Additionally, there is background information regarding an application that was received for this property on March 7th, 2022. And again, that's for the property located at 2750 North Chuparosa Road. Additionally, the code officer that investigated the property is on the call this evening, Code Officer Smith. I do invite you to give further testimony regarding the details of your investigation. Thank you.
You're muted.
Do we have the code officer?
Yeah, she's stalking, but she's muted.
Sorry about that. My name is Christy Smith, Co-Compliance Officer for the Office of Special Programs. On Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, we received a tip that the address of 2750 North Chuparosa might be operating as an illegal vacation rental. While investigating online on Airbnb, I was able to locate the listing for the property at 2750 North Chuparosa. I then sent a message to the host, Alex, at 12:35 p.m. that said, "Hi, Alex, coming into town on May 27th to May 31st. Was wondering if we can get an early check-in. Our flight arrives around noon on the 27th and didn't want to drive around town waiting till 3. Thank you in advance." At 12:49 p.m., Alex responded, "Hello, Michelle. Hope you're doing well. Yes, no problem. You can do an early check-in. I have my cleaning crew out and the house will be ready for you by 1. Does that work for you?" At 1:21 p.m., I responded, "That would be perfect. Thank you. Do you have any pool rafts? If not, is it okay to bring our own blow-ups?" At 2:58 p.m., Alex responded, "Of course. We have a couple of rafts by the pool, but if you're willing to bring your own, 100% no problem." I then issued administrative citation AB 0382 for $5,000 for operating a vacation rental without a registration certificate. This concludes my presentation and I'm available for any questions.
Anything else from the city?
Nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we'll open it up to board member questions of the city. Why don't we start with Mr. Sinclair?
I have none.
Vice Chair Kane? Mr. Moses?
None.
Mr. Basili?
None.
Mr. Hedrick?
None. Thank you.
Thanks. Officer Smith, you had said you got a tip on the hotline, I believe is what you said?
Yeah, I mean, I was told to investigate this property from my supervisor. And so I went online and investigated. He had sent me an email.
Okay, and the tip was, what was the nature of the tip?
It just says that 2750 North Chuparosa might be operating as an illegal rental.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, and no other questions from the board? Anything additional from the city?
I would like to add, Chair, if you were interested in the safety inspection details, I believe the code officer that conducted the safety inspection may still be on the call. If you have any questions regarding a safety inspection for that property.
Does any of the board members have questions about the safety inspection?
No.
No. No.
It does not appear so, but thank you. Okay, so we will officially open up this hearing. The appellant will have 10 minutes to speak. Any member of the public that wishes to speak on this case will have 2 minutes. If a member of the public chooses to speak on this case, the appellant will have an additional 2 minutes to respond. Excuse me. City Clerk, can you make sure that everybody understands that they are under oath? And then we will take testimony on this case.
City staff, appellants, and any other individual who desires to testify under this appeal hearing, under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. And sir, you may begin your 10 minutes.
This is the house that I bought with my wife for vacation, our own vacation. And Alex, we wanted Alex to manage it, or my son to manage it as well. And we turned in the application, we paid the fee, and we read the application, which said 45 days. And we had the inspection, safety inspection passed, verbally told me, because they were both houses done at the same time, 8 in the morning and 8:30 in the morning. And we were never received a letter saying that you should wait until you receive 4-digit letter. If there was anything emailed to me or mailed to me, I would like the city to present it, because I know for sure that I have never received anything like that. I just verbally heard from the safety inspector officer that it passed. And if you look at the dates, just like the house, the agenda before on the East Gem Circle, it's end of April. End of April is 2 months, almost 2 months from the application date. That's way past the 45 days. And that's 1 month after the safety inspection. So because the city was backlogged, because of the COVID, short-staffed, whatever, the administrative work, we were told that the rest of it is administrative paperwork after the safety inspection is done. So that is probably not the applicant's fault that it is taking more than 45 days. And the board, I request kindly the board considers that the applicant is different from someone who does not care about the law and goes ahead and starts renting without applying, without paying the fee, without having the inspection, without waiting 45 days. There should be a difference. And there were no pre-citation courtesy letters, warning, or anything. And that is all I have to say. This
Right.
will hurt the businesses.
Thank you. Anything, City Clerk, is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this case?
No registered speakers and see no hands.
All right, thank you very much.
Just one more word that on this
sir.
one also we have a contract which I have attached to the email with Rima's Realty Group for monthly rent, and it was empty for 2 months, not rented long term. So after 45 days, assuming that it's okay to start advertising for short term, assumption was a wrong assumption. Now we understand.
All right, thank you. Does the city have anything further to add?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, so we will close the open part of this hearing. Actually, I apologize. First, we will have the board an opportunity to ask questions of the appellant. Why don't we start with Mr. Sinclair?
None here.
Vice Chair Kane?
I have a question for city staff when it's appropriate.
Go ahead.
At that physical inspection, Patrick, is a piece of paper handed to the applicant who was there at the inspection? Is there anything handed to them?
Not that I'm aware of. If Officer Williams is on the call, he can clarify.
This is Michael in the office. Officer Williams stepped away momentarily. Oh, here he comes.
Mr. Williams, did you hear the question?
There was nothing handed to us. We have a witness, Mr. Gary Richardson.
Mr. Williams, did you hear the question from Vice Chair Kane?
No, I'm so sorry. I had to run to
Nope.
the restroom.
No problem. Vice Chair Kane, you want to repeat your question, please?
I was just asking at the end of an inspection where the applicant is standing there or somebody who represents that person, is there anything handed in writing to them at that time?
No, not at that time. They are, when I get back in the vehicle, right after the inspection, within 2 minutes, they are emailed the results.
They're emailed the results. And
Yes.
in this case, then, Patrick, we don't have a bounce back or anything indicating that that email didn't work.
That email with the inspection results went to the same email address that the notification of the inspection that said, I'm doing the inspection on this day, please be there. It went to the same address.
Okay, okay. Does that notice say you can't operate until you have a 4-digit number?
Yes, it's on the inspection report. I can read the exact thing to you if you'd like.
I think we heard it already. I'm just trying to get the mechanics down. So assuming they showed up for the inspection and that email was the same email, my assumption would be probably that they got that notice email.
I'm sorry, but I dispute that for both houses, and I would like to see a proof of that email sent.
Thank you, Mr. Setti. This is the time for the board to ask questions.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Moses?
Well, I would repeat what I said in the last hearing, but in addition, I think we should offer the appellant 10 days to submit a copy of the email he received if it in fact did not have the caution not to start till he got a permit.
Mr. Basili, any questions for the appellant?
No, I do not have any.
Mr. Hedrick?
No questions. Thank you.
So I have one question for the appellant. You have mentioned a number of times that it was your impression that you would have the permit in 45 days. When 45 days came and went, was there any attempt to reach the city to find out why you hadn't received it yet?
Yes, we did.
And what happened?
They said they were backlogged, short staff. It was a COVID result of being backlogged, and they had 300 applications and all that. It might take a long time. Yes, they said that to me.
So you were told they were still working. Basically, you were told they were still working on the permit.
Yes, but they told me that it's only administrative work. But we were not told that since we passed the inspection, safety inspection, we cannot start. Because I read the ordinance, it says 45 days. And we assumed, as I repeat again, for the last case and this case, we never received an email. I would like to see a proof of that email sent to us that we cannot operate.
So let me ask you a question. If you've never received the email, how did you know when the inspection was?
I received the inspection email, but I did not receive the result email. I just was informed of passing the safety inspection verbally, as I repeat again. And I have a witness, Mr. Gary Richardson, who was there. The inspector knows that. And we were told verbally that you passed. That was it.
Okay.
That was 28th of March, 8 in the morning.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board for the appellant? And I'm seeing no hands, so we will close the open portion of this hearing. The next time is set aside for the board to discuss what we have heard from both sides. Why don't we start with Mr. Hedrick?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Any discussion for the board?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Basili?
I think this case is similar to the previous one and no discussion.
Mr. Moses?
I agree with Mr. Vasili.
Vice Chair Kane?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Any discussion? Your impressions of what you heard? And
No.
Mr. Sinclair?
Well, it's, as has been said, we have a situation where assumptions were made that weren't valid, and the ordinance is clear, and to take it upon yourself to do that without the permit is in violation.
Okay, thank you. And I got to tell you, from my perspective, I've been through this process. If you receive the notification of when the inspection is, it's from my experience, they're not re-entering an email for the results of that inspection, so it would have gone to the same email address. And so I'm having a hard time that, you know, they received the notification for the inspection and then received nothing else. That to me seems like an inconsistency. But like I think Mr. Vasili and Mr. Moses said, it seems that this is, and Mr. Sinclair, very similar to the previous case where I think they made assumptions that 45 days had passed. Even though he said he reached out to the city and the city said they were backlogged and it would take longer, they chose to violate the ordinance by advertising it, knowing that that was a violation of the ordinance. Anything else from the board members?
No.
All right, do we have a motion and a second?
Motion to uphold the ruling.
The citation.
All right, I think you both said it motioned. Does one of you want to make
The second. Mine's the
Thank you
second.
very much. City Clerk, can you take the vote, please?
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Board Member Vasili,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kane,
Aye.
Chair Panessa,
Aye.
carries 5-0 to uphold.
All right, again, thank you everyone for your time and effort on this case. The appellant will be notified officially by the city. Again, this does not preclude you from renting long-term. It is only a prohibition of renting short-term. We are going to go ahead and move on to the next case. It is the appeal of the administrative decision that Chip Martin LLC is permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs, and the administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 1650 Ridgemore Drive in Palm Springs. City Clerk, can you make sure both the city and the appellant understand that their testimony is under oath?
City staff, appellants, and any other individual who desires to speak on this appeal hearing under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for the city report.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, city staff, residents on the call this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we do oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. For you this evening is a staff report for the property located at 1650 Ridgemore Drive in Palm Springs. Staff has found that the property was advertised and operated as a short-term rental from the elements that are listed in your staff report. Background to this property in 2022 for a vacation rental
Patrick, I
certificate.
apologize for interrupting you, but at least on my end, there was a kind of a glitch in your audio. Could you kind of start that over, please?
Yes, of course. I turned off my camera just in case it was causing the glitch. So
Thank you.
I will just start from the very beginning. So before you this evening is a staff report for the property at 1650 Ridgemore Drive in Palm Springs. Staff has determined that the property was advertised and operated as a short-term rental from the elements that are listed in your staff report. Additionally, I provided background because on March 2nd, 2022, the Department of Special Program Compliance did receive an application for a short-term rental vacation rental certificate. That application was not accepted due to missing documents and payment, which is attached in the staff report as attachment 5. Additionally, on May 28th, the city did receive a vacation rental hotline complaints for the property. Also, the code officer that investigated the property, Officer Nabhan, is on the call this evening and can provide further testimony on the investigation from the advertisement as well as the hotline calls received. And I'd like to invite Officer Nabhan to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, members of the board, fellow city staff, and members of the public joining us on the call tonight. My name is Mitch Nabhan, and I'm a code enforcement officer for the city of Palm Springs. The events leading up to the issuance of citation AB 386 are as follows. On Saturday, May 28th, 2022, the city of Palm Springs' 24-hour vacation rental hotline received a call at 12:59 in the afternoon regarding loud music coming from the rental property across the street, reported as 1650 Ridgemore Drive. I was dispatched on the call as the primary enforcement officer, with Officer Smith responding with me as a secondary officer. Before our response to the property, I did call the reporting party back to discuss the details related to the complaint and confirm the address that was being reported as 1650 Ridgemore Drive was not a registered vacation rental property with the city. However, the reporting party confirmed that address as being the address that they were reporting and stated that the occupants had been playing music all afternoon and there were a lot of cars parked in the driveway. They were also surprised to hear that the property was not a registered rental and detailed activity they've observed at the property for the previous month and a half that is generally consistent with short-term rental operators. Officer Smith and I arrived at the property at 13:26, which is 1:26 in the afternoon. From the street in front of the property, music was heard coming from the front side yard pool area, and there were 6 cars observed parked in the driveway. We contacted the occupants at the front door and found that the property was being rented short-term. The guests stated that their father had booked the property via AvantStay, the AvantStay booking platform from Friday, May 27th, 2022 through Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. The guests then provided a screenshot of their booking summary to Officer Smith. We briefly discussed the complaint that was received and our observations and provided the guests with a copy of the Good Neighbor brochure. The guests stated that they were never told any specific rules related to their stay. So I detailed the rules for music and noise, and they were apologetic and stated that they would turn the music off and keep the noise down for the rest of their stay. The guests were not issued a citation for violations of the vacation rental ordinance because the property was not a registered vacation rental property and therefore not subject to the restrictions contained within related to music and vehicle limits. Upon arrival back at my workstation, I was able to locate the advertisement for short-term stays at the property on avantstay.com as detailed. I believe it's on page 59 of the staff report as attachment 9. Additionally, I located an advertisement for short-term stays at the property on airbnb.com, which is located on page 61 of the staff report. So as a result of the provided booking summary, along with the advertisements on AvantStay and Airbnb, it was found that the property was operating a vacation rental without an operating certificate, and the citation was issued for a violation of PSMC 525040A to the property owner. So that'll conclude what I have to present, and I'm available to answer any related questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the city?
Yeah, just a couple things, Chair. I did want to mention that the application that was received on March 2nd was delivered from an agency, AvantStay. They are the ones that turned in the paperwork, and then the paperwork was then missing documents and returned. So I did want to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. All right, this time we'll open it up to board member questions for the city. Let's start with Mr. Sinclair, please.
No questions.
Vice Chair Kane,
No,
Mr. Moses,
No questions.
Mr. Basili,
No questions.
Mr. Hedrick.
No questions.
All right, thank you. I kind of have one, and I'm not even sure how to ask this. With Patrick, when somebody turns in an incomplete application, and this was this turned in person, do you know, or was it emailed?
I don't believe it was turned in person. I believe it was mailed. And the only reason why I'd say that is because, let me check if it's on attachment, attachment 5, because payment came separately as well. So the application itself came in incomplete, and then the next week later, payment came in from Avant Stay. So it was 2 separate, I believe, mailings that went out from our office, because we sent the payment back as well, because the application was incomplete. So, and I believe attachment 5, let me just look at it here.
Saw something in the packet that said there was some correspondence about all of the paperwork that was missing.
So it does look like that on attachment 5. You'll see the letter that we mailed back to Avant Stay in Los Angeles, and because of the missing documents, but also included in that letter, it looks like a letter directed to us stating what was inside that application. So from that point, I believe it was mailed in, not dropped off in person.
Okay. And then is there verbiage on the paperwork or the application paperwork that states that incomplete applications are rejected, or some other such verbiage?
I'd have to pull up an application real quick just to see if that verbiage is on there. 1 second here. Let me see if I can find that here. Let's see. It does state on the first page of like where it breaks down, at least the application I'm looking at right now does state that incomplete applications will not be accepted.
Okay.
Makes sense. Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Anything further from the city?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open up the public portion of the hearing. Monique, City Clerk, did the appellant accept that their testimony is under oath? I apologize if I missed that.
Did not hear an acceptance, but choosing to speak does acknowledge and accept that oath. And I believe the appellant is in the room.
Great, thank you very much. So the appellant will have 10 minutes to present their case. If any member of the public chooses to speak on this case, the appellant, they will have 2 minutes, and the appellant will have an opportunity to respond. So appellant, if you can identify yourself, and then your 10 minutes will begin.
Hi, I'm Melissa Russell. I'm the owner.
Thank you. Go ahead and start your testimony, please.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep it together. I really want to thank Patrick and Michael because they've helped me a lot through this. I really don't want to be crying because it feels like I'm trying to get sympathy tears, so I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get it together. I didn't submit the application. The application was submitted by the rental company we decided to sign with. They didn't do their job. The city, of course, rejected it. It was missing things. It was missing the payment. It was missing 2 important pieces of information that I specifically asked the company if they needed. They said no. The city returned it back. The company obviously sat on it because it was sent certified mail, so I'm assuming they received it. We were supposed to start renting on April 5th. the day we're supposed to go live, I get an email from the company saying we don't have our permit, that it had been sent back a month before, all this stuff. And I'm like, how does this happen? I've been asking if inspections are coming through, if we're ready for inspections. I've been like staying on top of this. So they're like, well, do you want to rent long-term? I'm like, no, this is our retirement home. I want to live there. Like, I'm not using this to, I'm renting it to pay for the house so that we can have the house in Palm Springs. And like, so like, can you do this long-term? I was like, no, I don't want to do this long-term. I want to rent this short-term. I was like, and we're losing Coachella money, which was a huge financial hit. And then, you know, of course the city's backed up. So then we went from 45 days to 90 days, which is not the city's fault. It's our fault. They weren't sent correctly. And then I'm like, I can't. So we had to go to our honeymoon the next day or like a week later. And so we're gone. We get back and the rental company's like, well, what if we just rent it short-term without a permit? I'm like, I don't think Palm Springs would like that. That's one of the reasons why we purchased this house in Palm Springs, is because Palm Springs is permitted and it's not allowed to run wild. I live in Los Angeles. We deal with party homes. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to live in a neighborhood like that, especially when I'm retired. So they're like, no, it's fine. I was like, are you sure? And they're like, no. Like, the most that'll happen is you'll get a fine. You can see it. There's actual an email that's proving it, and it's in my letter that they said to me. In our experience with Palm Springs, like, do you mind if I don't mind if I read it to you? It says, per the ordinance, she can this is from their company telling my representative. Per the ordinance, she can technically be fined $5,000, and it could impact her permit application. That is what the letter of the law states. That being said, we have seen very little enforcement from the city of Palm Springs, and moreover, many cities grant some leeway if you're in the application process for a permit. So I take that to mean that in their experience, since they're quite a large company and have many properties in Palm Springs, that in their experience, it's like a step. I mean, look, this is me assuming, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have called the city and asked myself. I completely take that responsibility. But I had their experience, and I figured the city's also going to say the state of the law. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, well, we don't usually are okay with it. But so I have phone calls with them. I have discussions with them. They say, no, it's really not that big of a deal. I'm like, okay, fine. So I go, okay, go ahead. So they put it up for May. I think it had been up like a week or two. And my realtor was talking, who I purchased the house from, my realtor is a Los Angeles realtor. He was talking to a friend in Palm Springs who's a realtor, and they were like, absolutely not. The city will take away her permit. Take this, that's total lie, that's BS, no. So I emailed the company. I thought I had sent the email with it. I don't know if it didn't get attached or if I forgot to send that email, but I emailed the company in May. And I say, listen, I found out that no, that in fact is not the case. They will take away my permit if they find this. I say, I know there's this rental coming up. I don't want to ruin these people's vacation because it's last minute. Let them rent. Even though I knew if we got pulled the $5,000, if we had even just fined the $5,000, I was going to have to pay money for these renters because it was less money than even the fine. So it wasn't like we were making money off of this. If I stupidly let them rent it to these renters, and it's the ones that made noise and got rented by their father and weren't met by the company. I mean, I'm just as mad to find out that the company wasn't there to greet them, not to give them the noise ordinance. Because again, these are my neighbors and my house. So they pull it. They say, okay, we'll pull it from any future rental. We allow the people who'd already booked their stay, and I didn't want to ruin it, so fine. And then in June, I emailed them again because I go to book it out for us just so they know we're there, because I don't want somebody walking in from maintenance or whatever. And there's a booking in June, and you can see the email. And I'm like, why is there a booking in June? I specifically said, pull this unless it's a 30-day rental and it's like 2 or 3 days. They're like, oh, sorry. Okay, we'll take care of that. And I'm just like, what are you doing? So, so it's just been a mess. Because of the company, I only did this because needed the money to cover the mortgage and everything we've put into the house. And so, and I really thought it was okay from what they said. And you can see in the emails. So at this point, we've had to put the house on the market, even though we don't want to. And the reason I'm asking to not have it revoked and to get the $5,000 because we've already lost a ton of money. But in case we don't sell the house, I need to rent it. I guess we'll try long term. I completely know this is our fault. So sorry, this is so unprofessional. Patrick knows I called him the first day and I was crying. So, so thank you to Patrick and Michael for dealing with that too. But so I just was misled, and you know, I'm a grown up, I'm an adult, I should have taken more caution with it. But the minute I found out that the city is not okay with it, I absolutely told them to take it down. And I'm sorry that they were renting to people that they didn't check. I'm sorry that they allowed noise. There's supposed to be noise sensors at the house. Like, the house is still supposed to be done properly. So I'm upset my neighbors. Like, we bought the house because it's in a quiet neighborhood. That was probably stupid since we needed to rent it. But you know, we're not people that like noise either. So I just feel awful. But I don't know. It's just really been disappointing because we really wanted to have a house in Palm Springs and that we can't. I'm just mad at myself for not pushing it, but okay. I mean, you can see everything in the letter and the emails, and I wish, and there's more emails. I wish I must not have sent them in a panic, but so that's what happened. So sorry, I'm crying.
All right. Anything further?
Oh.
All right, thank you.
Water.
So at this point,
Point of order,
we'll
please.
open up the hearing for board members
Mike,
to
Steven's
ask.
trying to say something.
I have a point of order.
Okay,
I believe that the appellant is not in an emotional condition to properly handle this matter today. And I think we should put it off till the next hearing.
Please don't. I need this over with.
yeah, that's up to her.
Please,
for
I
her
need this
decision.
over with. I know I'm crying, but I just get emotional because I'm fine. Like, you, unless you couldn't understand something I said, please ask me again. I apologize, but I mean, good, bad, or whatever. I need this over.
All right, we understand. Thank you. So we'll open it up to the board
I
members. for
appreciate it
questions.
though. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I understand why you're asking that, so I appreciate that. But however I do, I need this.
Okay, thanks. So we'll open it up to the board members for questions of the appellant. Why don't we start with Mr. Hedrick?
Is the management agent on the line?
Don't believe
The
so.
management agent that you hired?
No, I don't believe so. We're in the process of also, I want to be careful not to use their name as much as possible, because the way they are, I don't know what they'll do. We're in the process of terminating our contract with them. I've had to get lawyers involved. So because of many things like that, you know, finding out about that tonight, the noise. So no, they're not on. I mean, they did all that. I have the emails. You can see the emails, but they're not on. I didn't.
Okay. And the contract that you had with them, they were supposed to take responsibility for getting your license, managing the property, and being in full compliance with Palm Springs regulations.
100%. I wish I had the other emails that show this, but I thought they were on there. But it's between you guys and lawyers, I don't know who I sent what to. But I emailed them. I said, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need our LLC? It's only under an LLC for our personal protection. We're not a company. It's just me and my husband. I said, I have an email. I could email it to you guys if you needed a follow up. I said, I will go drive it to Palm Springs myself because I need this to go back in January. I will hand in everything. Had I done that, it would have been done properly. They didn't do it properly. And then Patrick or Michael or who sent it back to them and said, hey, you didn't do this correctly. And they sat on it for a month until the day we were supposed to go live. And then they have many properties in Palm Springs. I assume they would know the situation of the fines. And so from what they said, I assumed you guys would go, hey, we see that you're doing this, don't do it, or here's your first fine. I figured there was a step process. I shouldn't have assumed. And from what they discussed with me from their professionals who run this, that's how I took it. You can see in emails. And so, you know, and then the minute I found out, I emailed them and said, pull it. And then it went back to them in June when I saw they were still running it and said, why are you still running it? You can see that it's under my letter in attachment 3. You can see the email. It's the third email. I say, I'm a bit confused why there's short stays still being booked.
I'm very
Yes.
sorry you're going through this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Sinclair, any questions for the appellant?
Yeah, if we do uphold this fine, I'm not allowed to give legal advice on a lot, but it seems to me they'd be responsible for any fine. I mean, they were your agent, and I may be a lawyer, but I'm not handing out legal advice here. This is very unfortunate. I mean, obviously, the only mistake you made was trying to be nice and letting the people rent. But this falls squarely. I don't have any reason not to believe everything you said, and this falls squarely on the shoulders of the rental company, and I'd like to know who that is.
I would appreciate, just because this is a public thing, that we don't say it because of my situation with them. And I don't know if they'll consider this me speaking negatively and could come back at me and be litigious. I don't know. But it is, you would be able to see that in the paperwork, who the company is.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Basili, any questions for the appellant?
No, no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Moses?
No questions.
Vice Chair Kane?
Not for the appellant, no.
Okay, thank you. I don't believe, just real quick. So, I mean, I heard you explain that this rental company was your agent. Did they set up the ad? Is that correct assumption?
I did nothing except fill out the forms, you know, like for them. And then they were supposed to do everything. I didn't put it on Airbnb. I didn't put it up on anything, their site.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the board for the appellant? I'm not seeing anything. Does the, Monica, is there anyone else that wished to speak on this case?
Monique?
Monique, sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you, Jocelyn. We have no other registered speakers, and I see no hands in the room.
All right, thank you. All right, does the city have anything, a rebuttal to this case?
No rebuttal. I did want to just clarify, we just asked about the advertisements, both advertisements. One was the agency advertisement and one was on Airbnb from the agency themselves.
Okay, so there's 2 ads?
Code compliance officer did find 2 ads, one the physical agency ad, and then the Airbnb ad that was looks like the host is the agency themselves.
Oh, I see. All right, thank you.
So then I have a question. Sorry, can I ask one question?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
Just because of what different people are saying, I mean, even though this is under my name and this is my house, and I understand that this is what happened, wouldn't some of this fall under the agency's name for filling out the paperwork too? Like, I don't know. I don't want to put the agency up because then I don't know what they're gonna do with me.
So actually, that's a reasonable question. And Patrick, why don't we let you answer that as to what the ordinance states about who's responsible?
Yes, of course, I'd be glad to. So our vacation rental ordinance, chapter 5.25050 agency does go into detail about what our ordinance looks at as an agency. In section A, the very last sentence though does state that the failure of an agent to comply with this chapter shall not relieve the owner of the owner's obligations under the provisions of this chapter.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else from the board?
I have a question for the city.
Okay.
The cited defendant here is Chip Martin LLC. In the case of an LLC, who is held responsible by the city. The legality of an LLC is that there's a managing partner. I think that's what it's called. And nobody else has any legal liability. So who is legally liable here to this fine and the denial of the right to make short-term rentals?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Board Member Moses. So I believe this questions came up before regarding the legalities of an LLC. I would like to, just defer that to our city attorney, but I would point that the practice from our office has been that in an LLC, the people that we deem unable to operate further in the city of Palm Springs is the LLC and the natural persons consisted inside the LLC. But I would like to defer that to the city attorney as well.
I don't think that's legally possible in the state of California, but I'd like to hear from Jill Tremblay. Ms.
Hi.
Tremblay? Hi.
So based on the definition of owner in the code, the owner can include a limited liability company and the members of such company.
Wow. Okay.
All right, let's move on to, we'll close the open portion of this hearing. And at this point, we'll discuss amongst the board members. Why don't we start with Vice Chair Kane? Any discussion from what you heard?
This is like super unfortunate. I'm not her, and we have our paperwork and documents sent to us that Avance is the agent we're talking about. And I would just suggest that we all remember that name. And I would be curious if they have had other issues with the city where we've seen this before in front of us, because I don't recall. But as far as the case is concerned, it's a total bummer, but I don't really see a way around this.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. Any discussion points?
Oh, I have no further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Basili.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We've seen this happen to several other people as well. And we always come back to saying you have to be careful of the management company that you hire because of exactly what's happening. And I feel really bad about this, but we are regulated by certain guidelines that we have to abide by. And unfortunately, we have to make a decision based on the information that we receive. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Sinclair?
I would ask, we have dealt with this in the past, and I know we made a recommendation to City Council that something could be done about the management company that are, in my mind, negligent. Jill, do you know where we are on that? Has the City Council considered it? Our proposal?
I don't believe that they have,
Okay.
but I don't know that for sure. I think that was slated for later in this year.
Yeah, I just, again, I'm not gonna, Stephen and I shouldn't be talking about lawsuits, but that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hedrick.
I agree, this is very unfortunate, but I don't know a way out.
So yeah, it sounds like, everybody's got a similar perspective. It's for a management company to tell a prospective permit holder that the city doesn't enforce it could not be further from the truth. As you're seeing in today's case law. And it's very unfortunate that the management companies, some are great, some are not. And unfortunately, that's kind of beyond our purview. And it's been very clear since this ordinance that the penalty, even if the management company falls short of their responsibilities, unfortunately, it's the homeowner that bears the burden of their shortcoming. What you choose to do with that, is really up to you. We can't give you advice and should not be giving you advice. But it's very unfortunate that, and we've seen this over and over again, that homeowners bear the burden. All right, with that being said, can we get a motion and a second, please?
I don't want to move this. I'll move it, I guess. I'll move the upholding of the resolution of the appeals. I'm not, and she's got me upset.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. City Clerk, can you take the vote, please?
Just to confirm, Board Member Moses, that motion was to uphold the city's decision?
Yes.
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kane,
Aye.
Board Member Basili,
Aye.
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
So I want to thank everyone for their time and effort on this. Again, this is a very unfortunate situation because you were really, you got really terrible service, and I hope that you were able to get some remedy from somebody who is qualified to give you legal advice, which is not me.
Thank you.
The city will reach out to you in an official capacity. I think you said that you either had or were going to list the property. This does not preclude you from renting it long-term, which is 28 days or longer, or more than 28 days, I believe. But
And it doesn't attach to the property if I sell it, like the future owners can rent it, correct?
I believe it does not.
Okay.
So again, thank you for your time and effort on this case. And
Thank you to everyone. I appreciate it. Sorry for the tears.
No, we understand. These
Yeah,
are.
Have a good night.
It'll get better. Everything gets better.
I know, maybe it's for the best and we just, sell the house.
Everything gets better. The sun will come up tomorrow. Don't worry.
All right, thank you everyone for your time and effort on this case. We're going to move on to our next case, which
Mr.
is
Chair, may I have a 3-minute stretch?
certainly it's 7. My clock says 7:04. Let's come back at 7:07, please. Thank you, everybody. We took a little short break. We'll be back. Just a reminder, these meetings are recorded. Our next item on the agenda is the appeal of the administrative decision that Sophie Elizabeth Clark and Gavin Megnoth, I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly, are permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs, and the administrative fine of $5,000 for operating an unregistered vacation rental property located at 3044 North Cypress Road in Palm Springs. City Clerk, can you make sure that the city and the appellants understand their testimony is under oath?
City staff, appellants, and any other individual who desires to testify under this appeal hearing under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Was that an acknowledgement by the appellant?
Yes, it was. Sorry, it wasn't.
That's all right. Thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to ask for the city report.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, city staff, residents on the call this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. Before you this evening is a staff report for the property located at 3044 North Cypress Road here in Palm Springs. It was found by staff that this property was advertised and operated as a short-term vacation rental from the items listed in your staff reports. Additionally, the code officer that did the investigation for this property is on the call this evening, and I would ask that Code Officer Williams give further testimony regarding the investigation that he can investigate. Thank you very much.
Good evening, board. On May 29th, 2022, while I was trying to locate an advertisement that we received a lead on that was located on another street, I came across the advertisement 216-1053 on VRBO, which was for the property located at 3044 North Cypress, which is item 6-21. The advertisement was missing the required 4-digit city ID number. and the property is described as a newly remodeled mid-century oasis. The listing showed there was a 4-night minimum stay requirement and had 13 reviews, which one indicated that they were there for a week. The property is a 3-bedroom and that it was new to VRBO. The advertisement further describes the property as allowing 6 overnight guests. Parking was limited to 3 vehicles, and it also stated that the transient occupancy tax was included in the nightly accommodation rate and was hosted by Sophie. On Sunday, May 29th, I sent a booking inquiry to the property host that reads, "Good afternoon. I wanted to see if your home is available June 23rd to 28th. My husband and I, along with my mom, will be heading to Palm Springs for a wedding. Please let me know and I will book it. Thank you, Dave." That's item 6-48 in your agenda packet. On May 29th at 2:18 p.m., the host replied, "Hello, Dave, confirming our Palm Springs home is available for the dates you suggested." I then replied to Sophie with, "Hi, Sophie, that is perfect. I will book it shortly. Is the pool heat additional? And if so, do you think we will even need it in June? Thank you, Dave." Sophie replied same day, "Dave, you really won't need the pool warmed. It is naturally warming to 83 degrees at the moment. The average outdoor temperature is likely to be about 105. Spa heating is included in your stay. Guests generally want pool heating from October to April. Hope this helps, Sophie." I replied the same day to Sophie, "Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll book it when I get home, or I'll book it shortly." At that time, I issued citation AB 0389 for operating a vacation rental without a vacation rental certificate. And also on June 1st, Sophie did send a follow-up message that stated, or that said, "Hello, Dave. Not sure if you had second thoughts or booked elsewhere. We've had another inquiry for our property that overlaps with your preferred dates. We have held off letting them book as you were first. Please let us know. Many thanks." That concludes my report, and I am available for any questions the board may have.
All right, anything more from the city?
Nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of the city. Why don't we start with Mr. Hedrick?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Sinclair?
No questions.
Mr. Basili?
No questions.
Mr. Moses?
No questions.
Vice Chair King?
Patrick, is the owner both of these people on the appeal paperwork or?
Let me pull up.
Can I answer that for you?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think so. Not right now.
Okay.
Let's let the city answer, please.
So on title, we show that both Sophie and Gavin are primary owners.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
All right, I don't believe I have any questions at this point. Anything further from the city?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'd like to open up the public portion of this hearing. The appellant will have 10 minutes to present their case. If any member of the public wishes to speak, they will have up to 2 minutes. If any member of the public does speak, the appellant will have an additional minute or two to respond. And so at this point, the appellant, you can go ahead and start, please.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess firstly, I just want to say it's, an honor to own a home, and it's been a joy to live in Palm Springs. I moved there with Sophie in, I think it was about August 2020, and we lived there while we were in lockdown from our jobs in Los Angeles. As you can probably tell, I'm not from these shores. I was only moved to your lovely country a year before in 2019. But yes, the truth is we've been renting. We rented out our house as lockdown eased from the end of last year, from December, solely on Vrbo to attract older Canadian couples and families. And we've taken immense pride in trying to offer visitors to Palm Springs, a truly first-class experience. And I think this is reflected in the reviews, which are in your pack, but I don't know that you can see because they're quite small in terms of photocopying. I myself, I've been a landlord back in the UK for over 20 years and have never had any issues with the properties that I've rented. I've always tried to uphold incredible standards, and I've included, I think, a reference from one of my existing tenants who's been a tenant for over a decade, which I don't know if that came through. And I'm sure I could provide many more, but I've obviously seen how the previous cases have gone down. Basically, I was not aware of the rules and regulations. I guess we've obviously tried to make it to a higher standard. You can see that we've never had any issues with the city. But the moment we received the notice, I was absolutely mortified, and took down the listing within an hour and reached out to Patrick. Ladies and gentlemen, I will obviously accept whatever decision you make today, but I guess I'm pleading with you for an opportunity to remediate the situation, to go through the process, even get a ban for 12 months or something. But and I'm also willing to do community work or volunteer for the city. We want to be upstanding citizens. I don't know if that's going to land. I'm out of work at the moment. So yes, that's really all I have to say on offer.
All right, I just want to make sure, did you have anything further you'd like to add? You do have quite a bit of time, so.
Well, not really. I obviously heard the testimony of others who we didn't apply. We didn't realize that was the case. And I spoke to Sophie when I saw on the documentation that Mr. Williams suggested about this TOT item. When I said to her, what is that? What did you do? And she said she just cut and paste, from best in class listings of other properties to make our listing. So yeah.
All right. Anything further?
No, I think that's really all.
All right. City Clerk, has anyone from the public lined up to speak on this case?
I have no registered speakers and I see no hands.
Great, thank you. So at this time, it's set aside for the board to ask questions of the appellant. Why don't we start with Mr. Hedrick?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Basili?
No questions.
Mr. Moses?
I have no questions.
Mr. Sinclair?
The only thing I would ask is, did you remit the TOT to the city? Did you pay the taxes to the city?
No, we haven't. And, I spoke to Patrick about what do we do for next steps. And he said, don't do anything until we have this. So nothing has been remitted again. And I mean, look, I'm mortified by this whole situation. And no, we haven't.
Sure. Thank you.
Vice Chair Kane?
Yeah, I'll just take the moment to tell the appellant that we wish we could have as much discretion as you're asking us to have. We don't, unfortunately. It would be great if we could say, well, you're a top-notch, host in our city and someone else is not, and therefore we can't do that. Like, we have no discretion, and the ordinance is like super clear about what is and what isn't. And again, it's unfortunate, but we're in a bit of a pickle because we just can't do what you're asking us to do.
Well, thank you for taking the time to explain that.
So I'm sorry, Vice Chair Kane, anything else? Okay, thank you. So I had a question. So you had said that you just copied what you saw as in your words, best in class ad. If you were copying an ad that presumably had an ID number in it, was there no questioning about where that ID number, what that is, or where it comes from, or who it's required by, or who provides it? Or again, as you've discussed, the TOT, finding out that what is the TOT, who collects it, who remits it, all of that. Was there no follow-up on any of those?
So in all honesty, it was Sophie, my now wife, who did that. She's an interior designer, but she's taken responsibility for that. So you know, I know we come as a unit and we're the co-owners of this. So she's saying no.
Okay.
But we did, you know, for what it's worth, sorry, you know, on Verbo, we did fill in the, you know, the appropriate taxes, and we've paid our taxes. Is it the federal taxes for whatever it is now? I've got Mrs. Kane shaking her head. So you know, in her end of year taxes, she's paid those taxes. But
yeah, the TOT, just for reference, the TOT is the city's tax on very specific revenue that a short-term rental generates. And so the city has much like a sales tax is more of typically a local tax. The TOT is a local city tax on short-term rentals. All right, is there any other questions from the board? And I am not seeing any hands or shaking of heads. Yes. So does the city have any rebuttal?
Nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we will close the public portion of this hearing. And time now is for the board to discuss what we have heard from both sides. Why don't we start with Vice Chair Kane?
I don't think there's a whole lot to discuss here. Like I said, we don't have a lot of leeway, and if we've had this discussion, I mean, ignorance of the law is not something we can do much with, so it is what it is.
Mr. Sinclair, any discussion? What
No
you've heard?
discussion.
Mr. Moses?
No discussion.
Mr. Basili?
No discussion.
Mr. Hedrick?
I agree with Vice Chair King.
All right. From my perspective, I think Vice Chair Kane put it quite well. You know, the city has gone through great pains to try to inform people of the ordinance and the requirements. I'm always a little apprehensive when somebody copies somebody else's ad and then removes those things that should be a red flag, much like an ID number or something about the TOT. Because in my mind, that should be a red flag that there is something more required. And so that is always a little disturbing to me. If there is no more discussion from the board, can we get a motion and a second, please?
I move
Go ahead, Stephen.
Go ahead, Mr. Moses.
I second Mr. Sinclair's motion.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, City Clerk, can you please call the vote, please?
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Board Member Basili,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kane,
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, again, thank you everyone for your time and effort on this case. Mr. Magnath, sorry, if you will be contacted by the city in an official capacity. This does not prevent you from renting on what the city defines as long-term, which is greater than 28 days. It does, however, prevent you from renting on a short-term basis. Again, thank you everyone for your time and effort on this case. And we will move on in our agenda. The next item on the agenda is time set aside for the general comments, announcements, requests of staff, and other issues of concern from the members, pardon me, of the Administrative Appeals Board. Does anybody have anything they would like to say, discuss, ask from the city staff?
Yeah, I just want to make a point that which I said earlier. I don't believe an ordinance of any kind can attach liability to someone who by state law is exempt from liability. I think, yeah, I think that the city attorney's office ought to take a second look at that. And we might take a look at the effect of that on the appellant on case number 3. Jocelyn is shaking her head.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is like a proper place to have this conversation, but I mean, and you're certainly willing and I mean, welcome to ask the city attorney to like, you know, from a legal standpoint, but obviously people put LLCs together for a variety of reasons. And what we're trying to do, right, we're still from a policy perspective, the city has to get to that point of operators if they're hiding behind LLCs. I mean, like there's just, oh, these are the owners, they're humans, right? So I don't know the legalities around it, but the intention is obvious to me, Stephen, and it's not going to be a loophole. Like it can't be.
Does the city approve rental companies?
Say that again, Mr. Sinclair. Did
Does
the
the
city approve what?
Did the city approve, for instance, in case number 3, did it approve this group or don't we do that?
Yeah, I can answer. We don't have an approval process for agencies. They simply apply, get a business license, and become an agency.
That might be a recommendation to make.
Well, she ought to sue.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
Right.
We can't tell her that. But that's-
Again, as I think Vice Chair Kane is saying, we have to look at the ordinance as it's written. It is not up to us to say whether this is legal or not in the state of California. The city council wrote the ordinance, whether they did it correctly or not, is not for us to determine. If the city council wants to revisit that, or the city attorney says, hey, this needs to be revisited, then they should be doing that. I think we can rightfully ask the city attorney, you know, if for clarification, but currently the ordinance says it applies to the owners, and that's.
I'm not saying we did anything wrong in our decision. I think we acted within the law. I'm saying that if she wanted to appeal that, I believe she would win. That that action cannot apply to her.
And yeah, that's her right. So that nothing we did takes that away. Mr. Hedrick?
The city did form a working group to study the vacation rental policy. There was a in the Palm Springs Post and a couple of other things that I saw, they were asking for applications. I applied, did not get accepted, but I understand there was about a dozen people that were approved, and maybe Mr. Clifford can tell us about it.
Patrick can tell you. You were denied?
I was denied.
What the?
Or
Okay.
ignored, one or the other.
Hey, Patrick, now you have to answer to this.
Of course, I'll be happy to. I'll clarify. Board member, we were not denied; you just weren't selected. So, yes. So we did create a vacation rental working group. It does consist of 11 personnel. We did have our first meeting. We discussed vacation rental density. We did create a work group website too. That's on our vacation rental website. It talks about what we're looking to look at as far as topics that were identified from council back in our study session in March. The 3 topics were that we identified was vacation rental density, vacation rentals as an ancillary use to one's property, and then the effects on housing in the city of Palm Springs. So those are the 3 topics that the group's looking to discuss and possibly bring back recommendations to review, send to council for further discussion. So that's kind of like an overview of the work group that we've created.
Why are we not engaged in this like at all in some capacity? Can I ask that and I know I think I called you or something about like in some regard, I would like to address the working group as the appeals board who hears where the glitches constantly come up.
Yeah, so what we did on our website with each meeting that we have going forward, we'll have an agenda link and then have a link for comments. So, if there is comments that you'd like to provide, you're more welcome to use that link to email, and we can distribute to the work group as well. But yeah, that link is on our website currently as well. It all goes to the same inbox. There is one link there currently from when we did the density discussion, and you're more welcome to use that link or the next link that I'll provide, I should say.
Patrick, are those meetings public? Or are they closed?
So they're not closed. And so if someone walked in and wanted to sit and listen in, we're not turning them away either. From my understanding, there was questions whether the meetings were subject to like Brown Act. From my understanding, from the city manager and team, that they're not subject to the Brown Act. So as far as like a public meeting, I guess you could say that it's required notice where, notice and agenda is posted out X amount of days prior. They're not, but by all means, we're not also just denying people access to enter the room to listen to discussion. Now, there won't be like a public comment session as well in those meetings, but they're not declined to join as well, if that makes sense.
And I guess that's what I was getting at. If there was a public comment, that would be a great place for what Vice Chair Kane is talking about. I will tell you that Mr. Hedrick and I, probably 2 years ago, maybe 3, were part of a work group, and we came up with a number of recommendations to the city council. At that time, the city was still involved in the lawsuit, so they could make no changes. But Mr. Hedrick and I came up with a series of recommendations on how to deal with management companies. And for just what we dealt with tonight and have dealt with many, many times, that to create kind of an incentive for management companies to step up their game. Because currently the way the ordinance is written, the management companies are kind of absolved of any of the penalties.
Mike, can you
Yes.
can you send that through that email that Patrick just said? Just resend it.
I will have to look and see if I still have it. I think it
Or
was,
Ken, whoever.
yeah.
Vanessa?
I'll send it to
Send it to
Monique.
that, send it to the link, because why not?
Yeah.
No, I meant I'll send it to Monique to distribute.
Monique, you were going to say something?
Yes, sir. The public comment period is closed for this meeting, but there is a hand up, and it's at your discretion if you'd like to see what
That's
they need.
fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's Francine, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi there. I just wanted to chime in that VRON is currently putting together a list. We know the work group's happening. A couple of our board members are in the work group, but VRON is currently putting together a list of cleanup items for the vacation rental ordinance and suggestions. And top of the list is that agencies would have or agencies or management companies would have some kind of ownership when they're 100% at fault with like what happened tonight.
Thank you. Anything else?
I want to just revisit one more thing. If a property was owned in a corporation as opposed to an LLC, would the shareholders of the corporation be subject to the penalty?
You need to send this as a request to Jill, because we can't answer this question.
Or Jill,
So ask Jill for her analysis.
I'm asking Jill, and she's unmuted herself.
A requirement that they, once they get as part of getting the vacation rental certificate, they have to, transfer the vacation rental to a person that can be responsible for it. But I can look into it for you and give you a better answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the board, Mr. Sinclair?
I know we've been long today, but I have one little thing that I want to bring up, and I don't want to embarrass Patrick, but back in November, we had a decision on the house cattywampus to our house. And since that decision where they can't rent, it's been, I guess, 8 months now or 9 months, and all of it about 6 or 8 weekends it's been rented.
Mhm.
And sometime last weekend, there were 6 cars there. I called once, I've talked to Patrick twice. What do we do when they violate the order? Patrick,
Yeah, in fact, I can.
called
give you
once and
great-
I was told that oh, it's being investigated, but that was a couple months ago. And I'm just a little upset that this has gone on. You know, I'm just sort of offended personally because in my mind, the person who defended at the hearing was rather arrogant and very, you know, she smirked a lot. And so I don't know what we do with this. And again, as recently as 3 days ago, it was rented for the weekend.
Yeah, of course, and I understand the concern too. I do have good news, I guess you could say, as far as update that. So we did ask that to our city attorney. They did file criminal charges, and they have a court date. So that is in process right now. In fact, that was communicated too. There was another neighbor in the neighborhood too that was kind of being in an email chain between themselves and the city attorney. So that's how I know that that property is where it's at as far as the process. And in fact, I can give you a date if I pull it up really quick here, when that hearing is going to be. Let me grab it here.
Can you send it
Because
to me
let's see
privately?
here, that property-
Hey, Patrick, it's July 29th is the date of the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Friday.
Yep. So, you know, and that was in response to, because we've, from an administrative side, we've continued to issue citations, and unfortunately, as well as we think citations work, which they do for most citizens, this was one off that didn't, and then just ignored us. And so we had to take it to the next level where the city attorney did get involved, and now we're in the actual court system.
Thank
And what
you.
would the penalty be, Patrick?
You know, that might be a little bit above my expertise. What happens? You know, I don't know what decisions are made there. So I don't know. I don't know if Jill knows maybe what can happen when it reaches that level. I can pull up the property to see what kind of a hearing it is. It's
Can we take this offline? Because that sounds like it's kind of between Mr. Sinclair and Mr. Clifford, so that the rest of us aren't sitting through this. I will say as an
It
aside,
affects all of us. It's one of our decisions. My
thank you.
question was, what do you do when someone violates our decision? And now I've got the answer.
Great,
Sounds
thank you.
good.
Okay, so unless anybody else has anything else from the board, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Time set aside for the city attorney to update the Administrative Appeals Board on important items initiated by staff or previously requested by the
I'm gonna
board.
run and turn off the oven.
Okay,
Be right back. I'll be a minute. Go ahead.
I don't have anything to add. I can look into further Mr. Moses's question, and I am not involved in that prosecution, so I'm not sure what that complaint said as far as the penalties. I'm not sure if it's being prosecuted as a misdemeanor. Probably that's the case, but I'm not sure about that.
all right, thank you. And then final item on the agenda is the city clerk's report for future meeting dates. This time is set aside for the city clerk to update the Administrative Appeals Board on important items initiated by the staff or previously requested by the board.
Yes, I have no updates at this time. Your next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 24th. And just as a heads up, you will have a different secretary on that date. I will be on vacation. But I will make sure that your materials are distributed before I leave.
Thank you.
Might we meet in person?
We have not been cleared to have our boards and commissions meet in person yet. My understanding is that they will not allow that until we can accommodate hybrid meetings to make sure that the public is able to access the meeting.
Monique, when do you get confirmed as the permanent city clerk?
That will not be my position. We will have a new city clerk soon, and I am so excited for that.
Sure.
But I believe by the end of summer, we should have someone in place, and I guess we will find out then who will be supporting your board at
Well,
that
you've done a great job for us, and we appreciate it if we don't see you for a while.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so thanks everyone for their time and effort. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I always forget, do you need to call a vote on adjourning? or just-
No. 7:40, meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank
night.
See you in a month, guys.
Good night.
Bye, good night.